Can I Not Marry audio web novel chapter 29. No idea where life is heading generally in the romance novels. The day after the hero and heroine do the deed, it'll definitely be a sunny morning. The female upon waking up will hear the sound of water rushing in the bathroom, and just as she's entertaining herself with all sorts of ideas, the male will walk out the bathroom with a bathrobe on as he stares at the female with tender and soft as water eyes while indulgently asks, "Does it still hurt?" Then the female will blush with rosy cheeks and lowered her head as her heart races. Upon seeing such scene will make the male unbearable and push the female onto the bed. Incidentally, he would reveal 1,000 years of unchanged evil demonic smile. "You smell so good, I want to taste again." Then their lips will come into contact and the rest is history. It's written within romance novel as this. Do Lacey also thinks so when she opened her eyes the bright sun shone through the windows. She acoustic sound of water running behind the doors, thus she became anxious and fretful. Remembering the thrills of last night, her blood rose from the soles of feet rushing to the top of her head. Do Lacey's skin that was covered under the blanket began to heat up and redden. In the past she always thought that the president was an acrimonious, harsh, overbearing and revengeful capitalist. After last night, she didn't expect to discover that being acrimonious was merely a small case. At best he was only harsh to shrimps, while overbearing was within her calculations. However, the president's worst nature turned out to be rogue. How could he push her onto the bed without her consent? That wasn't enough, he even covered her mouth, cutting her off by licking her. Once he was done with licking, he started to bite her, and then once he was done biting, he... No. If she thinks of it any further she'll suffer a nosebleed. In fact, this wasn't the thing that made Do Lacey the most depressed. The thing that made her most depressed was that after having the patronizing president eat her clean and dry, unexpectedly she didn't even get to eat 1 ounce of the president's tofu, let alone able to see the legend strawberry birthmark of his. Oh, what a pity. Oh, what a pity. As she's grieving, there was a voice crying out within her heart, such tragic things absolutely cannot happen again. So, Do Lacey decided before the president finished taking a shower she would leave as soon as possible. Wrapping herself up in the bed quilt, she quickly out of bed, her eyes searched with the remains of their clothing besides the bed, scattered buttons were seen, her face immediately reddened. The clothing the president brought her were such poor quality, it can be convenient taken off. Isn't this rogue? It's simply perverted. Greater than _ less than greater than because the clothing from yesterday could no longer be worn. Do Lacey can only helplessly jump around with the bed quilt tightly wrapped around herself as she tried to find other clothing. At this moment the sound within the bathroom disappeared. The president have finished taking a shower. Do Lacey was in a hurry so she couldn't find her own clothes. Without looking she easily picked up white business shirt hanging at the bed head. With the fastest speed she quickly put on, feeling quite embarrassed once she discovered what she was wearing. This seems to be the president's clothing. After being eaten by that certain person for the entire night, upon waking still dare to wear that person's clothing. Isn't this clearly asking that certain person, do you eat me again? Do Lacey, why are you so stupid? Mercilessly scolding herself, Do Lacey began to undress. In any case she didn't want to contributed more to the president's arrogancy of being a pervert. Unfortunately, it was too late. When the button of her shirt was undone halfway the bathroom doors suddenly opened. Lian Jun appeared in the doorway wearing a bathrobe. His tall figure prevented the sunlight from shining through the door. His lingering eyes tightly stared at her. Do Lacey froze on the spot. Seeing her, he didn't say anything. He just slowly walked in, until he stopped in front of her. His tall figure covered her entire body. His burning eyes seemed like it wanted to guzzle her up. The corner of his eyes formed an indistinct smile causing one to unconsciously hold their breath. Have a look. It's exactly the same as written in romance novels. She's going to get eaten once again. Eating her once might be an accident, however if he was to eat her once more, in this lifetime she wouldn't be able to escape the president's clutches. Do Lacey, you read too many romance novels, it has all been in vain. When Do Lacey was desperately trying to think of a solution, Lian Jun suddenly raised his hand. His slender fingers held onto her left hand that failure to continue doing the buttons due to shock. 1 button, 2 button, 3 button. Hey, how come the president didn't undo her buttons? Not only did he not undone them, instead he helped her button the shirt up one button at a time. After a while the entire shirt was done up to the collar, carefully covering up the shallow red marks that remained from last night. Facing such development that didn't go according to the general plot of a romance novel, du Lacey felt slightly ignorant. Could it be because it was dark last night and the president's vision wasn't great? However, now that it's morning, his vision was bright and suddenly realized he didn't eat silky white tofu, instead he has eaten a stinky one, so he regret it. Once du Lacey thought of this, she suddenly became very angry. Cow. Stinky tofu is still tofu. In the market, stinky tofu is several times more expensive than white silky tofu. You don't want to take responsibility. I don't think so. The wind was roaring, the horses howling, du Lacey was about to rage and roar. Just as she was about to explode, suddenly a voice that sounded more than angrier than her was heard. Why are you here? Du Lacey was surprised, her raging anger was pressed down. Once she looked outside she saw a small and exquisite figure, her mouth immediately dropped to an O shape. Princess Hao. Her apricot round big watery eyes glared at her with anger. Princess Hao was standing in the doorway wearing a pink Chinese cheongsam. The rabbit within her hands was almost pinched, almost out of shape. Behind her, old Yu stood there with a smile. Young master, madam, we have come to pick you up. No wonder the president helped her get dressed. It appears old Yu have come to get them out of jail. Fair enough, he was here to get them. However, why did he bring Xiao Zhuzhong as well? Seeing Princess Hao, du Lacey's head increased 2 sizes. She vaguely felt something will happen. Sure enough, the rabbit within Princess Hao's hands was thrown to the ground. She quickly rushed over, pointing and shouting at du Lacey. How come you're in my cousin's room? You. What are you wearing? Du Lacey was frightened. She couldn't help but to hide behind Lian Jun. Feeling the woman behind unconsciously showed her dependence in him, Lian Jun's mood was extremely excellent. Princess. A strong deep voice sounded out, stopping Xiao Zhuzhong on her tracks. Cousin. The little devil instantly changed back into being a little princess. Her big eyes had water droplets lingering. Her voice was sweet and tender, completely knowing how to please others and making one cannot but adore her. If du Lacey didn't have a deep understanding of Xiao Zhuzhong's nature, she would have thought she was seeing things. Cousin. Why is she in your room? Princess Hao asked in a small voice. Lian Jun gently smiled and replied in a soft tone, because she is your sister-in-law. Such gentle voice made du Lacey unstable. She had never seen the president pleasantly warm smile before, let alone heard him use such a gentle tone. Just when she thought she has a thorough understanding of his nature, within fraction of a second she felt he was so unfamiliar. Her heart suddenly developed an astringent taste. She's not. You guys obviously was going to have a divorce. Princess Hao's momentum was swift and fierce. Who told you we want a divorce? Lian Jun's tone instantly turned cold. Princess Hao pointed to du Lacey. It was her. Not me. I didn't. Du Lacey busily waved. She's finished. If the president knew, she made a vicious oath in front of Xiao Zhuzhong stating that if they don't divorce then their future son will have no ass. She doesn't know whether he'll be so angry that he'll vomit blood. You lie. Princess Hao shouted. That day you clearly promised me. You said if you guys don't divorce, then. Her mouth was completely covered by du Lacey's hands. I was joking. Don't listen to her. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. She laughed with much guilt when Xiao Zhuzhong suddenly, mercilessly bite her. Ouch. Immediately her hands loosen. Cousin. In front of me she said she would divorce you. I did not lie to you. As Princess Hao said this, she furiously glared at du Lacey. You rascal. You even con young children. You don't deserve to be with my cousin. The big bad wolf. The big bad wolf. The big bad wolf. Du Lacey was speechless. Don't say any more. Lian Jun suddenly interrupted Princess Hao's accusations. His cold tone was extremely terrifying. Cousin. Princess Hao suddenly tearfully said as if she has been wronged. Du Lacey was about to speak. How can you cry over such small matters? Lian Jun leaned over, using his fingers to pinch the little brat's face. His tone softened down. Let's go home with cousin, okay? That. I actually. Du Lacey continuously tried to interrupt them. Okay. The little brat smiled happily. Her curved eyes still had tears hanging there. Du Lacey. In fact. Old Yu, let's go. Lian Jun gave Old Yu a glance. Yes. Young master. Princess Hao pulled Lian Jun's hand, jumping up and down on the way out. Oh yeah, let's go home. Du Lacey. So, let's say student Du Lacey who made improper remarks have been completely ignored by the president. A romance novel that had one after another suddenly turned into a melodramatic soap opera of the cousin taking away the lovers while the female lead swallow the dog blood. One can only say that the stage life is really too broad.